Hey there, welcome to Craft Central Designs. Today I'm sharing with you a pretty patriotic deco mesh wreath. I created this one for a friend and she requested that we do the wreath on a budget. So she purchased the mesh, the wreath frame, and the wood star at the Dollar Tree, and I added in some of my patriotic wreath embellishments and ribbons from my stash, and voila! This very pretty patriotic wreath is now the wreath of my friend. And it's so pretty. Yeah, I thought I would take you with me while I create this one today. Welcome to all to my channel today. Please remember to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the tutorial. And as always, your questions and comments are always welcomed. Okay, let me show you how I created this patriotic wreath, which is actually a pretty awesome wreath because you can display this on multiple patriotic holidays throughout the year. So as I mentioned, I am using some deco mesh from the Dollar Tree, something I haven't done for a while. But as it turned out, I used 3 rolls of the red, 3 rolls of the blue, and 3 rolls of the multicolor red, white, and blue. I also have a 14-inch wire wreath frame from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to show you some patriotic embellishments that I happen to have on hand. That little sign there is from Hobby Lobby. I also have a few other little items from Hobby Lobby as well. I have some wood stars. These little stars came in very handy. I popped those around the wreath on the deco mesh. And these little stick-on stars, oh boy, they came in very handy. Wait till I show you what I did with those. Turned out really a nice thing to have on hand. Okay, there's that wood star from the Dollar Tree. Now, I didn't measure that, but I want to guess it's about 8 inches across. Now, I had some scrapbook papers from Hobby Lobby and the patriotic theme. Just showing you the ones that I had on hand. I had some striped red one with stripes, a blue one with stripes. That's a dark blue with tiny stars, and then the other 2 that you saw there. And I did end up covering the star with scrapbook paper, and I'll show you that here in a bit. I have some white and blue pipe cleaners, which of course I always get those at Hobby Lobby, but they also have a great deal on pipe cleaners on craftcentraldesigns.com. Now, I do have some patriotic narrow ribbons from Hobby Lobby. All of their patriotic items are 40% off. That's a beautiful Celebrate ribbon from Michaels. And these other 2 ribbons, the dark blue with the stars, I believe that must have been Amazon. I purchased that last year. And that's a real good ribbon, a really good ribbon. I'm not sure which one it is. From craftcentraldesigns.com. I had made a couple of patriotic wreaths last season, or maybe just a few months ago, actually. You can find those on my playlist. I also have a ribbon with red and white stripes. All of those ribbons, the wider ribbons are wired and the other ones are not. Okay, so here is that mesh that I referred to. Now, I was reminded while I was creating this wreath of the fraying tendency of this mesh, but I did the best that I could, and I did the woodland method on these bundles, and by doing that, it's a good way to minimize the fraying. So I'm going to be creating some bundles. Actually, I created 20 bundles that look like this. There's 3 pieces per bundle. I cut each piece in 18-inch long sections. Now, after I did all of these bundles, I decided there just was not enough white on the wreath, so I ended up adding a little bit of my own mesh just to add some white in there, and I'll show you that here in a bit. And that was a good decision because it really added that really pretty element to the wreath. And the reason being, it's that really beautiful mesh that I absolutely love so much with the stripes on the sides. But it was a 10-inch, so I'll have to show you a little trick how I compensated for that. I'll show you that in a bit. So I'm going to show you how I did my bundles. Now I curl side up. I'm going to be sure that I wrap that first roll really, really tight. So I place my fingers out on the edges, all the way out on the sides, and I roll it up about 4 times. I want a nice tight roll. I'm trying here to eliminate as much fraying as possible. So see how I roll it really tight? 4 times. Then I'm going to crawl up the center of the deco mesh till I get to the other side, and I clip that. I'm going to put that off to the side there. These clips I get at the Dollar Tree, very helpful in creating these bundles, but you could use a clothespin or you could use a chip clip. Same thing with the red. Roll it up 4 times. Make sure I have a nice tight roll. And on the other side, see how I place my fingers on the outer edges of the roll? This helps to get a nice tight roll. Then I, crawl up the center again with my fingertips, and you can see I'm already starting to battle that fraying. But I think it turned out pretty well with the fraying. So, I have a little bit of renewed faith in Deco Mesh from the Dollar Tree using this method. Okay, now we're doing the red, white, and blue. And like I said, 3 pieces per bundle. I cut each in an 18-inch length. Now I'm going to take all 3 of those, and I started off by just placing that red, white, and blue one on the top, hoping that that white would show more, but it really didn't. So that's how I stacked them. I kind of crisscross them in an X pattern on top of one another. Then I take a half of a pipe cleaner, and I'm using a coordinating color. And I even up my tails in the back, give it a few good twists, and that is bundle number 1 of 20 bundles that are going to be placed on that 14-inch wire wreath frame from the Dollar Tree. Now I'm just going to emphasize that good idea to make those rolls that you start off with on those bundles. When you roll it up, roll it nice and tight and straight, and that will help to eliminate some of that fraying. Okay, so I'm going to, on this 14-inch wire wreath frame, I'm going to use the second row from the outside and then the third row, and I'm just going to stagger them all the way around the wreath like that. Second wire, third wire, second wire, third wire, and so on. I place the bundle on the wire, pull it nice and tight, and then bring those pipe cleaners around that wire and give it a twist. I'm going to go ahead and load up that wreath frame with all of my bundles. Then I'm going to show you how I incorporated white mesh into this wreath. Now you can see that that white really didn't show up at all on that wreath. So yeah, I definitely needed to add some white, and that was, like I said, a good decision. Okay, so I'm going to continue to place all of those mesh bundles on that wreath, pushing one up against the other as I go until I have it completely filled up. This is going to really fill up this wreath frame. So what I'm going to do is, I believe I made 10 just small bundle. Actually, it was just one piece of mesh at 18 inches of the white, and I'm just going to insert it around the wreath in between those bundles that you see there. And that will be enough to add white to the wreath and really make it look more patriotic in red, white, and blue. And as you can see there, that's all loaded up, but very little of the white is showing. That's a nice looking wreath there for using Dollar Tree mesh. Okay, so there's my favorite deco mesh. I use it all the time, and I'm going to insert some deco mesh into this wreath. Now I'm going to cut an 18-inch piece. Now this is 10 inches as opposed to the 6 inches of the other mesh, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to compensate for that. I'm going to do the same woodland method bundle. I'm going to roll it up nice and tight on the ends, put a clip on it, turn it around, curl side up, of course, and roll the other side the same way. Now I'm going to scrunch down the center till I get to the other side. Now to compensate for that extra width, I'm going to fold my bundle, scrunch it together, and then instead of wrapping it around the normal way that I would wrap my pipe cleaner, I'm going to wrap around the bottom, leaving kind of a, let's call it a nub on the bottom. And that I could just push right through that wire and make that deco mesh appear to be the same height as the other mesh on the wreath. So I just pop it down in there, push that nub a little bit in between the wreath wires, and then I just take my little pipe cleaners there and wrap it around the wreath wire. And this is how I just compensate for that extra width of the deco mesh. And this deco mesh really adds a lot to this wreath. So it was a good decision to do that. See how it already looks better. And the stripes, very nice touch on this wreath. So I believe I did 10 of those white. It's actually a singular bundle. I just did one piece. I'm going to show you that again. Cut one 18-inch long piece, starting with my fingers toward the edge so I can get a nice tight roll. I roll it up 4 times, place a clip on it, curl side up, of course, and on the other side I do the same thing. Roll it up, and then scrunch it right down the center till I get to the other side. Now I'm just going to fold that, basically fold it in half. Just like that. And then I hold it nice and tight, and I'm going to just wrap a pipe cleaner around that little nub there at the bottom. And that, like I said, will fit right in between the wreath wires so that the mesh will be at the same level and it won't be poking up higher than the red and the blue. So I just went ahead and inserted those all around the wreath, and that looks much better. And from my view perspective, I think it looks much better. Okay, then I'm going to just go ahead and go around the back and clean up all of those pipe cleaners. I just snip it off, and then I poke the excess right down into the wreath so that we don't have any of those wires from the pipe cleaners scratching the door. So I went around and I cleaned all that up. Now you can see those little nubs sticking through the wreath wire, but that's fine. That's fine. No problem with that at all. Okay, here's the wood star from the Dollar Tree. Now I have this pretty patriotic paper, scrapbook paper. Now I didn't use that one because it's more of that Americana look, you know, that kind of worn look. And the blues just were not coordinating on that. Although it would have been great had the background been more of a solid blue. So what I'm going to do is go with the one with the red on it. Now, the only problem was on the tips of two of the points of the star, I had to piece together the scrapbook paper to cover the tips of the star. But honestly, it was very easy to do. Once I cut off the around the star, I just used my little scrap pieces and I created little ends just like that. It was super easy to do. And I'm just going to use Mod Podge to place that on the wood star. Now I'm basically creating my own, I guess you could say my own sign, which I love to do. So yeah, this was a fun part, and this turned out really, really nice. This wreath overall was, if I had to add up the cost of the items, pretty inexpensive to make, and it's really pretty. And the beauty of these wreaths is you could take them out multiple times per year for all the different patriotic related holidays. So you can get a lot of use out of this. I suggest that when you're not using it, if possible, put it on a clothes hanger and put it in a closet. This is going to keep your wreath nice year after year. Okay, so Mod Podge on with my sponge applicator. Now I'm going to place my scrapbook paper on there, smooth it out with my hands. I might have used saran wrap on that too. I'm not sure. Yeah, I did. I like to smooth out my scrapbook paper with a piece of plastic wrap, like a saran wrap. That really pushes out any bubbles and creates just a smooth surface. Now look how cool that star looks. Now you have all the patriotic colors on there. And where I pieced that together, I just put a little extra Mod Podge on there. Now I'm going to create a very nice little centerpiece for my wreath here by just using that wood heart from the Dollar Tree. It was a very nice size. I want to say it was about 8 inches across. Okay, so I had this little plaque that I had picked up at some point in time at Hobby Lobby, and I really thought this would look nice on there, and I really loved the wording. It had a little burlap hanger on the back, so I'm just picking out those staples there so it would lay flat on that star, which I'm going to be gluing that to the star. So I make sure I do it right side up. I love the wording on that plaque. Of course, there's so many different wording for patriotic holidays that you could use. You do you, whatever you prefer. I'm putting some Aleene's Tacky Glue on here. Now, I am assuming that this wreath is going to be on the outside. Also, remember that during the year, on a number of the patriotic holidays, it's going to be very hot out. So you got to remember to use as much durable glue as possible on your piece. So I'm using Aleene's Tacky on that. Now, I had these little stick-on stars, and I could not believe it, but those stars on that little plaque were exactly the same size as my little stars, my little stick-on stars. And these were much prettier than the painted ones on the plaque. These actually were raised stars, and it just added some dimension to the little America the Beautiful sign. And I used red and blue. There were 2 different size stars on that sign, and I was able to cover up all the stars and match exactly star to star. And this just really dressed up this this plaque. Now, I always love to take any kind of plaque from anywhere, especially Dollar Tree. I love to redo Dollar Tree plaques and signs, but always think about how you can make them better, make them more attractive, make them more visually interesting. And that's what I've done here. I used a plain wood heart. I put on some great looking scrapbook paper in the appropriate theme. I put a plaque on there. Now I'm adding stars. And I'm going to do one more thing as well that you'll see here in a little bit. But you can take something very ordinary and make it extraordinary by just using little embellishments and ribbons. That's a very important one. So I added, the stars that were painted on there were all blue, but I added some red stars as well as blue. Now, one problem that I encounter anytime I do anything patriotic is there's a big variance in blues when it comes to patriotic merchandise, whether it's scrapbook paper, whether it's signs, whether it's mesh, whether it's ribbons. Sometimes patriotic merchandise is more in a royal blue. Sometimes it's in a darker blue. So you just have to try and go with it and do the best you can. But, you know, it's really hard to match everything perfectly because of the way, like I said, the merchandise is sold. So, yeah, there's, like my ribbons are a little bit darker blue than the deco mesh. But honestly, I think it all turned out to look beautiful. So, yeah, I'm not going to quibble over, you know, trying to be perfect with the blues. Just going to go with it. So I have some wood hearts. I had a package of those on hand. I'm going to use the larger ones and then 3 smaller ones. So 3 large, 3 small. I'm going to paint a large and a small one in white, the same in red, and then the other one, which is more of a royal blue like the deco mesh. I'm going to use that paint and paint that one those colors. Now I ended up adding a bit of glitter to all 3 of these, but it's an ultra fine glitter. So it's going to add more of a sheen than a glitter. And you'll see that later. I'm leaving those stars off to dry there. Okay, so I have some ribbons. These were left over from wreaths that I had done when I did my last patriotic wreath, which may have been last July. I'm not really certain. No matter. It doesn't matter. But I do have some really cool patriotic wreaths on my playlist if you want to go back and look at those. Okay, this is a Celebrate ribbon. Oh my goodness. So beautiful. Don't get me started on those beautiful ribbons from Michaels. This is fabulous, durable, great, very firm, beautiful fabric. And it's a little bit more on the royal blue side, but I'm still going to go with it. I'm going to use this as my base bow. Now, if you want everything matching perfectly, be sure to pay attention to that when you look at anything you pick up to create your wreath, because you are going to find, variances in that. But I think when you see the finished wreath, I don't think that you even really notice that, the blue issue. So enough about that. So I'm creating a base bow here. I'm going to do 3 loops around, I want to say around 11-inch loops. This wreath does not come out to be quite the same size as my wreaths that I use 10-inch mesh. So I'm going to go with, rather than the 12 inches on the loops, I'm going more with 10 to 11. 3 loops on each side. How do I make bows? Well, I have a recent tutorial that shows you step by step in great detail how I create my larger bows. I also have a tutorial on how I create my smaller bows. Both of those videos will come in handy if you are not familiar with bow making or not familiar with the type of technique that I use for bow making. Now, if you're not interested in learning all that, you want a different method, you could always use a bow dabra or an easy bow maker. Okay, so I have my base bow. That's going to be on the bottom. I'm using 3 ribbons. This is a red and white stripe ribbon. I think this was from Christmas. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to make the loops a little bit smaller, around 9.5 to 10 inches. I kind of wish that this ribbon had been a little bit thicker, but this is what I had on hand. So like I said, I was compensating and adding some items here and there to contribute to the wreath that I'm making for a friend of mine. So I'm just folding over my loops, pinching it in the center, twisting my ribbon, holding it nice and tight in the center. 3 loops on each side on this bow. This is tier number 2, and that's going to be stacked on top of that pretty blue and white stripe. By the way, I left my tails around 10 inches. I'm not going to have real long tails on this wreath. And then I have one more layer to my bow, and that's going to be that blue ribbon with the white stars. I'm just opening up my loops to receive that last layer, and I'm going to use the ribbon with the smaller stars on it. Keeping my same tail. This is a very nice ribbon. Real good or really good ribbon. I always forget which one it is. But that's from craftcentraldesigns.com. I'm telling you, you're not going to go wrong with any ribbons that you ever order on craftcentraldesigns.com. I am a huge fan of craftcentraldesigns.com. So on this bow, I'm going to just create 2 loops on each side, or 4 loops altogether. I'm going to use a white pipe cleaner, wrap it around the center of my loops, and I'm going to create 1 single loop going right down the center by simply rolling my ribbon under, scrunching it underneath that loop with my fingertips. Again, watch the tutorial. And then I am going to just secure that loop with the pipe cleaner, cut the ribbon off from the spool, pop it right through that center loop. I know this looks complicated, but if you watch the tutorial and see it slowly done and practice, you too can create bows like this. Okay, so I'm going to trim up my tails later once I get them on the wreath. And for the excess pipe cleaners on the back of these bows, I do cut that off and bend it down because I want those layers to be very flush, one on top of another. I'm going to align the center of my bows, one on top of the other. I got my hand right down the center there, holding it very tightly. And then I have my last layer, my star ribbon is going to go right on the top of there. Now you could see the difference between the blues there, but honestly, I'm like, and I'm picky. I'm really picky, but I'm okay with it. I think it still looks like a great, fabulous looking wreath. Now remember that deco mesh is, more of a royal blue, so yeah, I didn't have any other deco mesh. Like I said, it was intended to be a kind of budget-friendly wreath, and that's what's created here. Just using a lot of what I already had and some budget-friendly materials from the Dollar Tree. Okay, so I have my ribbon all ready to go, and I'm going to be placing that around 9 o'clock on my wreath. Okay, so now I'm just going to glitter up my stars a little bit. With my sponge applicator, I'm just going to use Mod Podge. I keep Mod Podge in my squirt bottle. And I'm just going to put a nice layer of Mod Podge on there, and then I'm just going to lightly sprinkle some of that ultra fine white glitter on there. Now, I thought I was going to just leave the red and blue stars plain, but I ended up sprinkling those as well with that ultrafine glitter. Now, it did not turn the stars white because it's a super fine glitter. It just added a little bit of sheen and shimmer, which is what I was going for. I have red glitter, but it was a dark red. Again, there's so many shades of colors, of one color that you have to try and match everything to on when you're doing projects. So I decided not to introduce the darker red glitter that I had used at Christmas. I also had a blue glitter, but again, that was the same story. So I decided just to use the white ultrafine glitter on everything, all the stars. So they're off to the side drying now. Now I'm going to be placing my very pretty star sign right in the center of my wreath. And this is going to look so good on this wreath. Now I am going to use a little bit of Aleene's Tacky Glue once I get that sign on the wreath, and just put it under the tips of the stars and let that stick to the deco mesh. Because again, this wreath is going to be outside, likely on a door in the hot summer. So, yeah. It's already getting hot. Memorial Day coming up, July 4th. Yeah, so I'm just trying to provide as much of a adhesion security as possible here. So I have 2 blue pipe cleaners, and I am going to put those on each side of my star. I'm also going to put a piece of felt additionally to hold that pipe cleaner on there. So I put Aleene's Tacky underneath my felt pieces, underneath my pipe cleaners, and I even added a little bit of hot glue. Now I am going to use those pipe cleaner tails there and attach those to the wreath wire. Very simply, I just reach my fingers through the deco mesh, feel for a wreath wire, and I just twist those pipe cleaners around. Now that's going to hold the star on, as well as what I just mentioned, that I used a little bit of tacky glue on each point of the star and let that just adhere to the deco mesh wherever I could get it to adhere. So I'm going to let that dry for a little bit, and then I'm going to place that star in the center of the wreath. Okay, now I'm going to do a little small bow with all of those pretty narrow ribbons that I had on hand to use. And look at, they're all different. One is just a red, white, and blue stripe. One has stars on it. The other one, just has stars and stripes. A little bit wider than the other two, a little bit more narrow. Now I'm doing my figure 8 bows here. Now, if you watch the tutorial on how to make smaller bows, I show you how to do a figure 8 bow. Now, if you do it exactly like I showed you in the tutorial, you will have all the right sides of your ribbon facing the way that they should be facing. Okay, this can be a problem if you're not folding your bow loops correctly. So very, very easy to do. Check out my tutorial to learn how to do what I call figure 8 bows. Okay, that's my bottom layer. Now I'm just going to make a very cute little bow and put it right at the bottom of that star. I have there some floral wire, 26 gauge. I like to use that when I do my little figure 8 bows. So I'm going to make the loops just a little bit smaller. For those other loops, I want to say maybe they're 4 inches, maybe 3.5 to 4 inches. These loops are a little bit less. And I'm going to do 3 loops on each side on this one. Use a little piece of my floral wire, wrap it around. And when I do this, I pull that floral wire really, really tight in the center and I scrunch it. And that just gathers up that ribbon right there in the middle. And it creates a very nice look for that bow. Remember, all these little details. Take the time to do the little details because they make such a difference. For example, this little bow that I'm doing, I'm using 3 different types or 3 different patterns of ribbon. And let me show you what I did to finish off the bow. And you'll see what I mean about detail. I did another little bow from the top. This one I decided to do in 4 loops or 2 loops on each side. Wrap my floral wire around, scrunch it really, really tight, give it a twist. Now before I adhere those together, I'm going to cut off the excess wire there on the back with my old scissors. I'm going to stack those up and align them perfectly to one another. And then I like to take my needle nose pliers and really squish my little bows together. And then another piece of floral wire. Wrap it around all 3 where I'm holding that together with my fingers. And twist that in the back. And I'm just going to glue that to the bottom of the star. And that makes a really cute bow, but a very, very cute and colorful embellishment for that sign. Now, remember the stars that I showed you? These are bigger than the stick-on stars. They have like a clear heart. It's not really white. It's more of a clear silverish. And they have red and blue. And it is a royal blue. See what I mean about patriotic materials? I mean, you can't win, really. You just have to go with it and do your best. I put a red star right in the middle of that little bow. And what a beautiful finishing touch that was. Now I'm going to be trimming down my tails. You see? Look how pretty that is. I'm just using a little bit of hot glue there. Now, probably I should have put maybe a little bit of tacky as well, but I wasn't thinking, I guess, at that moment. But, yeah, I'll probably pop some tacky glue behind there before I give that wreath to my friend, just to be sure it's not too late. I could still reinforce with tacky. And I trimmed up my tails a little bit, giving them a little bit of an angle. And I don't know about you, but I am digging this sign. Oh, I just dated myself. That's an old hippie expression. Okay, I'm digging it, all right? It looks great. Okay, so, yeah, I'm going to take those pipe cleaners and attach that sign. Now, those little stars, these are really pretty. I know that they have those at Hobby Lobby right now because I just saw them recently at Hobby Lobby, those packages of stars, and boy, do those look good on the deco mesh. So I went around the wreath and I used all 3 colors. And I just put a little bit of Aleene's tacky glue on the back of the star, and I just attached it all over the wreath to different pieces of the rolled up deco mesh. Now, I tried to use the opposing color. For example, on the blue, I would use a red star. On the red, I used a blue star, and so on and so forth. You got the idea. But it does make those stars stand out more if you do it like that. I want to say I probably put maybe 15 stars on there. Okay, now you can see I have my little shimmery stars poked in, and I didn't lay them flat on the wreath. I poked them in to the deco mesh and had them poking up out of the deco mesh. See how pretty that looks? So I'm going to take my Aleene's Tacky Glue and just, same thing, just wherever I could get those stars to attach and adhere to a bit of the deco mesh, that's where I put my glue. Now those stars came out looking really, really nice with that white ultra fine glitter because it just added a shimmer, which is exactly what I wanted. I have my bow on. It's right around 9 o'clock. And I think this is turning out so super pretty. Now I'm just reinforcing underneath the points of the star. Wherever I saw that star sitting on deco mesh, I popped in a little bit of glue. So I have, the pipe cleaners plus a little bit of the tacky. Now I'm going around and cleaning up all of the fraying. Yes, well, you have a little bit of fraying with every deco mesh. Let's be honest. Even the best of deco mesh is not perfect. But yeah, so I went around and cleaned all that up. Now that I'm done handling the wreath, that should be minimized the fraying. So I want to be sure that my bow is looking good. I trimmed up my tails on that, angled them. I cut the tails rather short, around 4, maybe 5 inches. Okay, last but not least, I took a blue pipe cleaner, crisscrossed it, twisted it, created a teardrop shape. That's going to be my hanger. I took the tails of the pipe cleaner, attached them straight over the sign so it would hang straight. And here is my Patriotic wreath. And I think it turned out just lovely. Tell me what you think. Yeah, I'm loving this one. Okay, remember, if you are not currently a subscriber, I hope you will consider becoming one. Give this video a thumbs up. If you enjoy the tutorial, this really helps my channel to grow. And your comments and questions are always welcomed. Okay, until next time, you all take care.